condición alrededor no podría ser mejor para levantar a mis hermanos, hombres de valor. Ya hay conocimiento, la nación está creciendo. Agua de vida para mi sed estoy bebiendo. Entiende el que miente, la verdad no defiende. Si aprendes depende de lo que comprendes. El bombillo se prende y la falsedad suspende. A ti, a tus duendes y cualquiera que se ofende. Te invito a un sermón en cualquier callejón de la tribu de Efraín. Si preguntan quiénes son, los santos se preparan que en esto continuaran, el mundo arrojaran y en el reino avanzaran. Estando todo escrito, sirves en tu contra. Es hora de trabajar, salgo de la sombra. Proverbios 6 y 10, el vago se deshonra. Al que responda, quizás le corresponda. No les tiro, sino que les advierto. No sé por cuánto tiempo el reino estará abierto. Ya no estoy hambriento, en la selva solo ando. Me mantengo preparando, siguiendo su comando. Espero no me crean para que así los investiguen. Que con la prueba en sus manos en lo claro se les...
God. All praise to the Most High Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Shalom Israel. And the brother, introduce yourself, brother.
Yakasha Halak Masha Ben Yasha Allah Ben ISSACHAR.
All right. It's the brother from Northern Kingdom Prophets right here on YouTube. And he's going to go ahead and give a breakdown of Issachar and how they relate to the Mexicans. Hopefully this is going to be a good one. I'm anticipating this. I've been anticipating this. I think a lot of people are anticipating this. Yeah. So, brother, you have the floor. Go ahead and do your thing, man.
Khan, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I give all glory, all honor, and all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Wacha Kadash. Shalom to the Yakim. I'd like to thank the Wada brother, Yashar, for inviting us to do this presentation. So without further ado, we're just going to jump into it and touch on some basic teachings of how Issachar is related to the Mexicanos and Chicanos. All right. If you don't know what a Chicano is, like I was just talking to brother earlier before we opened up, a Chicano is basically and not a Mexican national. A lot of times people, they hear the word or they just see a person that looks of Mexican descent, they immediately assume that, he's a Mexican national and cross the border or something like that. But if you're not familiar with the term Chicano is just a Mexican American, basically. More like what I like to say is a Mexican Gentile, all right? Because we're not exactly following all the traditions and the customs of Mexican nationals as if we was born there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to touch on the curses real quick. Let's get Deuteronomy 28 and 46.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 46. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
So in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, starting at 15, there's a whole list of curses going to 68. And what it says in verse 46, read that again.
Verse 46, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
So all these curses are going to be following our people here in the last days. And what it says in verse 46 is that they'll be upon the children of Israel, be upon the 12 tribes. Book of Deuteronomy, starting at 15 to 68, and it's going over everything that happened in colonialism. All right, the curses prophesied exactly what was happening in colonialism.
Hey, brother, hey, real quick, y'all freezing up just a little bit, so. Just you might want to replay what you said again because you broke up through that thing real quick.
All right. The curses from Deuteronomy 28 prophesied what would be happening in colonialism. All right. When the so-called European came over here to the Western Hemisphere, every curse prophesied of what would happen to the Northern Kingdom during colonialism. Give me Deuteronomy 28 and 49.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth.
So the Lord, Yahweh, shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth. Where did the Europeans come from? They came from the other side of the ocean. That's a nation from far. Go ahead.
As swift as the eagle flies, whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
As swift as the eagle fly. If the ancient flag of Spain or Castile was actually a eagle, all right? And it says, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. So us indigenous of the Western Hemisphere did not understand Spanish when they got here. We did not understand Portuguese. We did not understand French. We did not understand English. We didn't understand none of these European tongues. Read that again.
Verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth. As tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance.
Fierce countenance. If you read Indies by Bartolomé de las Casas, there's a lot of illustrations of all the torturous things that they used to do to us, starting here. All right. And it ain't stopped. All right. Colonialism has not stopped. They've been trying to get rid of us since they got here into this present day. Now there's this nation of fierce countenance, and this is why they be locking up children in dog cages, right? Go ahead.
Verse 50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor...
All right. Also, let's touch real quick on smallpox. Smallpox, if you didn't realize, smallpox was also prophesied in what is known as the Torah. All right. So that's a lot of times when I'm dealing with like a Gadite or something, they don't like to hear the word Bible. So I tell them, you know, smallpox was prophesied in the Torah, right? Give me Deuteronomy 28 and 27.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 27. The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt.
A botch, right? What's a botch? It's a little scab. Go ahead.
Verse 27. The Lord shall smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst
itch. Go ahead.
Whereof thou canst not be healed.
With the emerods. And emerod means like what did they say? How did they say? A hemorrhoid, right? Hem, like hemoglobin, right? Like blood is just a little bubble of blood that pops out of the skin. Okay, with the emerods and with the scab and with the itch. These curses are there to Most High put on us as a punishment for not following his laws, statutes, and commandments. All right, so-called Mexicans who go back to the Aztec, which go back to the word Mexica. All right, the word Mexica is actually a Hebrew word. Mashiach means the anointed ones. So the word Mexico derives from Mexica, right? Which derives from Hamashiach, right? Which means anointed ones, right? So this is the way that what do you call them? The people that study these historians,
historian scholars.
This is the way they the world through their traditions, through their customs, and through their languages. All right. Could you share my screen real quick, Ak? I want to just show one thing about the word Ak. We use the word Ak, right? What does the word Ak mean, brother?
Go ahead and share the screen so that I can allow it to.
Everybody knows if you're in this Israelite tradition, what does the word Ak mean? Why do we use that? Ashar?
It's brother. It's called brother.
Right. Okay, this is the Aztec word for brother. Ak. Ak It's almost spelled exactly the same way we spell it. Achcauhtli. Achhuatl, right?
Mhm.
This is the Hebrew word that the Aztecs were using. And like I say, historians, this is how they trace the migration of populations, all right? Through language, through customs, and traditions. Now I want to share with you a custom that the so-called Mexicans are still keeping. And this is the area right here that I'm going to be dealing with. If you can see that, you got the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras. All right. So I'm going to be touching all these, this area right here of Mexico. Okay. So one more, let me touch on a tradition that so-called Mexicans are keeping. Okay. It's called Guarandera. Issachar is keeping this. The so-called Mexicans come from the tribe of Issachar. And this is a tradition or a law, in fact, that we still keep to this day. It's called La Guarandera. Traditionally in Mexico, a woman has 40-day recovery period after giving birth. She's not allowed to leave the house or do any work. Right? Every window in the house must remain closed. Right? So this is one of the traditions that our people are still keeping. And it's in fact a Mosaic law. Give me that in Leviticus chapter 12, and I'll prove it to you.
The book of Leviticus chapter 12 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a woman have conceived seed and born a man child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, according to the days of the separation.
Okay, so she just gave birth to a son, right? And it says she shall be unclean 7 days. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
According to the days of the separation for her infirmity shall she be unclean.
Go ahead.
And in the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. And she shall then continue in the blood of her purifying 30 days.
So 33 plus 7 is what? 40.
40 days.
40 days. So this is a law that we still keep. Unknowingly, most of our people wouldn't even know that. It's just a tradition that has been passed down to us from ancient times, right? And it's a law, or the Mosaic law. So like I said, historians, this is the way they trace populations and migrations of people. All right, so now what I want to do is just touch on some of the scriptures. Basically, I would help you out to connect the dots of how Issachar is actually the modern day so-called Mexicans and Chicanos. Give me 2 Kings chapter 21 and 6.
The book of 2 Kings chapter 21 and verse 6. And he made his son pass through the fire, and observed times, and used enchantments, and dealt with
Let's start at 5 actually.
The book of 2 Kings chapter 21 and verse 5. And he built altars for all the host of heaven.
He built altars for all the host of heaven. Go ahead.
In the 2 courts of the house of the Lord. And he made his son pass through the fire, and observed times, and used enchantments, and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord.
Okay, let's unpack this a little bit. Let's start at 5 again. And he built altars for all the host of heaven. All right, what are the host of heaven? Are we still sharing, brother? These are the host of heaven. All right. This is the host of heaven right here. And these are the altars. See that? These are pyramids. What you see on the left hand is the Orion star belt, the constellation Orion star belt. And then you can see on the right are the Great Pyramids. And they've been built as to replicate the linear path of the Orion star belt. These are the ones in Egypt. Now let me show you the same thing going on with the Aztec pyramids. All right. So the Orion star belt, these are the host of heaven that 2 Kings is talking about. Give me that again in 5.
The book of 2 Kings chapter 21 and verse 5. And he built altars for all the hosts of heaven.
He built altars for all the hosts of heaven. So the ones the Aztec pyramids built, we the same people. Issachar built the pyramids in Egypt. Issachar built the pyramids in South America. All right. The same people built these pyramids, and we built them after the host of heaven, which to replicate this star called Al-Nitak, Al-Nilam, and Mintaka. All right. And in the Aztec pyramid, they were also built to replicate the linear path of the Orion star belt, the host of heaven. So we built these altars, the pyramid of Quetzalcoatl, the pyramid of the sun, and the pyramid of the moon, to replicate the linear path of these hosts of heaven in the Orion star belt. Okay, go ahead, give me 6 now.
Verse 6. And he made his son pass through the fire.
So this is Aztec human sacrifice. He made his sons pass through the fire. Go ahead.
And observed times. And used enchantments.
And we observe times, right? What does the Second Chronicles say? I'll touch on that after this. But First Chronicles chapter 12 verse 35 says Issachar is a man that understood the times. All right, and I'll show you a picture of the Aztec calendar here in a minute. Go ahead, finish that 6 out.
Verse 6. And he made his son pass through the fire. And observed times. And used enchantments. And dealt with familiar spirits and wizards.
Yeah. So we were doing human sacrifices. We built these altars, or also called pyramids, to the host of heaven, replicate in the Orion star belt. And give me, matter of fact, give me First Chronicles chapter 12 verse 35. Right. So you can see here, I got an Aztec pyramid right here. And this was also prophesied as a characteristic of Issachar, that we understood times. Now this calendar here, the Aztec and Mayan calendar, is the most accurate calendar in all the world, in all the history of the world. It goes into 18-minute increments, and also 26,000 years, which is an eon, man. Go ahead, give me that.
The book of First Chronicles, chapter 12 and verse 32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the time.
They had what?
That men that had understanding of the time.
They had understanding of the times. Okay. So on the left hand here, you see an ancient Hebrew calendar. You can see it's in a circular shape, right? This is how we came up with the Aztec calendar, more perfected. Killer. They both go by seasons, right? They both go by the moons and equinoxes, right? In order to bring forth our agriculture. So we lived according to the seasons to bring forth our agriculture, our fruits, our harvest, our wheat and everything. Okay, so our calendars would tell us the times. Issachar was a man of the times. Give me that again.
The book of First Chronicles, chapter 12 and verse 32. And of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the time, to know what Israel ought to do.
Right.
It's of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment.
Right. So we had understanding of the times, which was the Aztec calendar. Okay. All right, Ak, you could stop sharing my screen. Okay, so what we're going to do is touch on some more scriptures connecting Issachar to the so-called Mexicans. Give me Genesis 49 and 14. The thing about trying to identify who is who in the Bible and trying to connect it to modern day, a lot of it goes into characteristic. And one of the predominant characteristics of Issachar is that we are hard workers, man. Everybody knows Mexicans is hard workers, right? We're renowned. We're world renowned for being hard workers, right? And this has all been, something that the Most High has blessed us with. We're able to endure, and that's why our animal, what represents us in the Bible is the donkey, right? Because the donkey is able to endure heavy burdens for long distances and long periods of time. All right, go ahead, give me that.
The book of Genesis, chapter 49 and verse 14. Issachar is a strong ass.
Strong ass.
Couching down between two burdens.
Uh-huh.
And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute.
Became a servant unto tribute, right? So at one time, we had all of our empires. We had Atlan, right? Right where I live right now was called Atlan in southern Colorado, okay? New Mexico, all the way down into the Yucatan, and all the way up into the West Coast.
Yeah, almost all of California.
All of California was called Aztlan. Okay. We also had Machu Picchu, right? We also had Tenochtitlan, right? These are all empires that we had. Okay. Go ahead.
That was it for.
Give me that again.
The book of Genesis, chapter 49 and verse 14. Issachar is a strong ass, couching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear.
So what this means is, as we were still being nomads and traveling around the land over here in the Western Hemisphere, we finally just seen where we wanted to build Tenochtitlan, right? On top of a lake, of all places. You know what I'm saying? So we found that this land was good, and we set up camp there. You know, we built Tenochtitlan. But after we quit following the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, that's when the Most High said, look, I'm going to take all your empires. I'm going to take all your land. I'm going to have this heathen nation, the Edomites, or all these heathen nations come over here and slice up all your inheritance and give it. Now we are serving unto tribute. And this is what you see all Mexicans working in the agricultural industry, right? Who's picking all your fruits that you ate today? Who's picking all your vegetables? This is Issachar's hands had touched those vegetables. Issachar's hands had touched that produce. Guaranteed. On all the farms here in America, North America and South America, the predominant people that work those industry is so-called Mexicans, right? But like it goes back into Genesis. This is how, you know, we were kind of like born into that life, man, born into that characteristic. And like I said, the way you identify these tribes in these last days is, does that characteristic fit these people, right? Okay, give me that in Genesis, was it 49?
Again?
No, the mandrakes. The mandrakes.
Brother, if you don't mind, after you give your, I don't know if you're gonna do it, but if you are, this Quetzalcoatl, this Quetzalcoatl character, the one that you mentioned when they did the pyramids. Quetzalcoatl, yeah. Can if you don't mind, when you have the time, can you go into that character?
Let's go into it right now. Give me Isaiah chapter 6.
There you go.
Quetzalcoatl.
There you go. Because like I said, let me just share this real quick. I don't want to cut you off. I just wanted to share this. This is an image of that person.
Chapter 6.
A drawing image.
Right. Quetzalcoatl. So Quetzalcoatl was Yahweh Shai.
There you go.
Okay.
There you
go. Actually, let me just get it in the scriptures.
Starting at verse 1.
Yeah, give it to me.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 6 and verse 1. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne,
Uh-huh.
high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphim.
Seraphim. All right. Quetzalcoatl is known as the feathered serpent, the plumed serpent. A
Bring
seraphim
it up.
is a plumed serpent.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go ahead, read that.
Verse 2. Above it stood the seraphim. Each one had 6 wings.
Okay, on wings. What are there on wings? There's feathers on wings, right? So we're talking about a serpent with wings. Okay? The plumed serpent. Go ahead.
With twain he covered his face. With twain he covered his feet.
Mm-hmm.
And with twain he did fly.
Right. Go ahead.
And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts.
Right.
The whole earth is full of his glory.
Uh-huh.
And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried.
Go ahead.
And the house was filled with smoke.
Uh-huh.
And then said I, Woe is me,
Right.
for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips.
Right.
And I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips.
Go ahead.
For mine eyes have seen the King, the
Uh-huh.
Lord of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphim unto me.
Okay, the seraphim, the plumed serpent, the feathery serpent. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Then flew one of the seraphim unto me, having a live coal in his hand,
He had a coal in his hand. Go ahead.
which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar.
Mm-hmm.
And he laid it upon my mouth,
Right.
and said, Lo, has this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away.
So what did he say? Thy iniquity is taken away. Read that again.
And said, Lo, this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin is purged.
That sin is purged. There's only one in all the universe that can purge a man of his sins. Right? That's Yahweh Shai,
Khan.
the feathery serpent. Just like Quetzalcoatl, we seen him as the feathery serpent. Okay, and there's even the Mormons going on this about how Yahweh Shai had came over here to deal with the ancient inhabitants of the Americas. You know what I'm saying? All right. Is there any other questions you wanted me to address?
Nah, I just wanted you to touch on that real quick before you finish, because that was, to me, I was reading up on that before the class, before we got started, and I was just like, this is very important that the brother touches on this, because if he don't touch on this, then he's missing a major part, of information. So I believe that a lot of people needed to know that. So, but continue with the presentation, brother.
All right, let me give you another image right here. Share, if you could share my screen one more time.
Yep.
Abakasha. Okay, so can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
This is also another depiction or a drawing or painting.
A depiction.
Mm-hmm. The water depiction of Quetzalcoatl. And you can see this man. And he's got negro skin, right? And he's carrying a cross.
And this is before 1492.
That's right. Pre-Columbian Mesoamerica.
Right. Remember that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Beard. Look, the color of the beard.
The beard, right?
White
as snow. He's got his beard,
Mm-hmm.
right? White as snow. Yeah, so these things were passed down to us, even though they burned a lot of our records, or all of our records, because they didn't want the rest of the world to know who we are. But they still were passed down in oral tradition. Mm-hmm. A lot of things were passed down in oral tradition. And this is where we get these like misty, mixed up, watery color, like dream-like creation stories. But on all these creation stories that the Aztec Indian, the Mayan Indian, the Inca Indian, the Seminole Indian, the Taino Indian, and the North American Indian have, there's a basis of truth that came out of the Torah, man. You know what I'm saying? All right, you could stop sharing that. I want to touch a little more on these scriptures, and then I'm going to just get some references. All right, we touched on The Aztec calendar,
Mm-hmm.
right?
We did the pyramids and
Did the pyramids.
we didn't get the mandrake. So
Oh, let's get the mandrakes. Okay, one of the characteristics, like I was telling you, is that Issachar, the so-called Mexicans, or Chicanos, we hard workers, right? Let's get that.
the book of Genesis, chapter 30 and verse 14. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah.
So during the time of wheat harvest, there we go again with the agriculture, right?
Mm-hmm.
There we go again.
Mhm.
All right, go ahead. During the time of wheat harvest, go ahead.
Verse 14. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest
Uh-huh.
and found mandrakes in the field
Uh-huh.
and brought them unto his mother Leah.
Right.
Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes.
Mm-hmm.
And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also?
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes.
Right. Go ahead.
And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes.
Right.
And he lay with her that night. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob the 5th son. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar.
There we go. Man for hire. Issachar means man for hire, right? If you could share my screen, Abakasha.
Yep.
And a lot of our characteristics in these last days, the Most High, He put on us that we're going to become a servant unto tribute. All right? And a lot of our characteristics have to do with working these fields. Okay? And being hard workers. This right here is backbreaking work, man.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this little brother right here down here on the right. He's getting his hands on the chili peppers, man. Right? So this is one of the characteristics how you can identify the tribe of Issachar in the last days. What's that? This little brother right here.
So everything when you put up the scriptures and history, it's very obvious that everything lines up, right? Everything goes hand for hand. And I think that's why a lot of people need to realize is that when you look at these scriptures and then you look at a certain people group, you can understand that we are these people, right? And if to me it feels like if a lot of people that read the Bible, they can't pinpoint who is who because they don't really even understand what they're reading. And that's why I think it's important that we do videos like this so that we can teach the people and show the people.
Well, you know what? I really like what you're doing with collecting the 12 tribes, right? You have somebody who represents that tribe come on your platform and give a testimony of why they are them people, because those vessels, they hold this information, man.
Mm-hmm.
Those vessels from these tribes, they hold this information, and those vessels from these particular tribes are going to be the best ones to break it down for the rest of the nation. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I know what you're doing with this. Like you said, hopefully we'll get all the 12 tribes up on here, and somebody representing that tribe, and break down why they can identify that these people are who we say they are. Right.
Who best to do it than somebody from that tribe?
That's exactly. That's why I know what you're doing with that. All right, you could go ahead and take that down, brother. Okay, let me get a few more scriptures. Then I'm just going to go into some outside sources. We got the man for hire. We got the Aztec calendar. Let's get Lamentations 4:18 as a matter of fact.
Lamentations?
Yeah. The book of Lamentations 4:18. Lamentations chapter 4, verse 18.
4 and 18.
Yup.
The book of Lamentations, chapter 4 and verse 18. They hunt our steps, that we cannot go in our streets. Our end is near, our days are fulfilled, for our end is come.
They hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets, right? So what this is going into is, in this modern day, this was a prophecy in ancient times of what would be happening to us in the present day, in the last days. Okay, so just like it says they hunt our steps that we cannot go in our streets. Okay, like I said before, all these European colonialists came over here. These was all our streets, right? And what are they doing? The ICE agency, right? Well, it even starts before the ICE agency. In the 1930s, they had
specifically 1933 Operation Wetback.
Operation Wetback. And it's funny, that word wetback actually tells us who we are too, because wetback just means we were crossing the river.
Hey, there you go.
Right?
There you go.
Right? So wetback means we was crossing what? The Rio Grande? The word Hebrew, that's what that word Hebrew means. Crossing over, man. We're crossing rivers. Right? So that by them calling us wetback, they think it's a byword, but in fact, it's a telling name of exactly.
It's a confirmation.
The WADA. Thank you. Confirmation. Go ahead, call me a wetback. That just means I'm a Hebrew of Hebrews, brother.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Let me get this one more.
Go ahead.
The book of Lamentations, chapter 4 and verse 19. Our persecutors are swifter than the eagles of the heaven. They pursued us upon the mountains. They laid wait for us in the wilderness.
They wait late. Go ahead, say that again.
They laid wait for us in the wilderness.
So it's just like, when these brothers
the border station.
Yeah, the border patrol. Not only that, not the border patrol, but you got these militias out there with their M16s and whatnot, laying wait for migrants to come over through the desert, and they just sniping them right there in the desert, laying wait for them in the wilderness, man. Right? So let me give another one. They bereave of children. Give me that's in Jeremiah, isn't it? I will bereave them of children. So just like if you could share my screen, there's another curse that was prophesied in the Bible, that the Most High, he would, how does it say, separate them at the gates.
I'll fan them like
fan them
with the fan at
with
the
the
gate.
fan at the gates of the land.
Yeah.
What's that?
I will fan them with the fan,
Oh,
bereave them of children.
I think I should have it.
Hold on, brother. Jeremiah 15:7.
All right.
You could share my screen up.
It's sharing.
Okay, so there's this. You see, this is what's happening to the so-called migrants. This is because we are a cursed people, Mexican migrants, right? They're taking the children away from their parents. This was another curse that the Most High had put on us because we quit following His laws, statutes, and commandments. Go ahead, bring that out.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 15 and verse 7. And I will fan them with a fan in the gates of the land.
In the Bible, when something is fanned, it's what it's referencing is when you would get the wheat grain, you'd beat it on the threshing floor, right, to separate the actual grain from the chaff. And then what they would do is get a fan, and they would fan away the chaff, okay, which is a metaphor or a similitude of separation. Read that again.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 15 and verse 7. And I will fan them with a fan in the gates of the
The
land.
gates of the land is the Mexican border. Go ahead.
I will bereave them of
He
children.
will take the Most High said He's gonna separate them at the border and take their children from them. Go ahead.
I will destroy my people, since they return not from their ways.
Because we some idolatrous people. We will worship. We will set up, altars to santos, san this and san that, and virgen this and virgen that. All kinds of different kinds. We will put up candles to them. We will, make sure they're facing east. Give them nickels. Give them water. Give them food, and all these things are just our wicked ways. That's why the Most High is destroying us. This is why He's doing these things to us, right? Give me that one more time, brother. I just want that one to sink in.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 15 and verse 7. And I will fan them with the land. I will bereave them of children.
Look at how they're treating our children.
I will destroy my people, since they return not from their ways.
The dog cages, all right. This is a nation of fierce countenance, and this is still happening to us in this present day. They're not playing a lot of it on the news no more. The media is on some whole other stuff, right? But this is still going on. You know what I'm saying? And these are all curses that the Most High put on us that are going to identify who the children of Issachar are, man. All right. Now we got Lamentations. Our inheritance is given over to strangers. Let's just touch on that real quick too while we're at it. Lamentations 5:2. Because the Most High, He gave us this whole Western Hemisphere as an inheritance to the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan, right? The Seminole, the Taino, the North American Indian. All this was ours that the Most High had gave to us as an inheritance. But since, like I said, since we could follow the law, statutes, commandments, He sent over the colonialist European.
The book of Lamentations, chapter 5 and verse 2. Our inheritance is turned to strangers, our houses to aliens.
Our houses, our inheritance is turned over to these, the Europeans, the Portuguese, the French was over here, Germans is over here, right? The English is over here, man. All of Europe came over here slicing up the pie, just like it said in Lamentations, the prophecy that the Most High said He gonna bereave us of our children, bereave us of our inheritance, bereave us of our land, man. All right. So, all right, just to solidify a little more on that, I'm gonna touch on some books now that y'all can self, and what they do is their primary sources. It's that also prove that or they state or bear witness to the fact that the so-called Mexicans are the tribe of Issachar and Israelites. Okay, the first book I want to touch on is called In Search of the Roots of Ancient American Civilizations, April 1994, by the author John D. Keyser. Is it Keyser?
Yeah.
And this is an actual given by our king, Moctezuma, right? Soon after the Spaniards arrived. Okay. And this is what he was quoted. Montezuma, the Aztec leader, when the Spaniard Cortez invaded Mexico, reminded his ministers and high dignitaries, quote, "You know, as I do, that our ancestors did not hail from this country we live in, but came from a far distant land, led by a great prince." Okay, so what he was saying is that we didn't come from, we're not originate here. Our king Moctezuma, the Aztec king, said we didn't originate here. We originated from a far off land and was led over here by a great prince. Okay. The next book I want to touch on, I'm just going to touch on some excerpts excerpts, right, from these books. The Wada. The next book is called the Yucatan. I don't know. I guess you could. I guess you could share this.
You want to share the screen?
Just some notes. I mean, you know, case people got it down on the people out there that they whoever's Search of the Roots of Ancient American Civilizations, April 1994, by author John D. Keyser, right? The next book I want to touch on is called The Yucatan Before and After Conquest by Diego De Landa. And this book goes back to 1556. All right, this is a primary source.
Starting on page 8.
Starting at page 8, quote, "Some old men of the Yucatan say that they have heard from their ancestors that this country was peopled by a certain race who came, right? Who came from the east, whom God delivered by opening them 12 roads through the sea." Okay, so what it's saying, the Aztec and Mayan were telling, you know, these conquistadors and friars, and these what are they, friars, priests, and whatever else,
friars, priests,
explorers, these certain things that were jotted down. This one was jotted down by Diego De Landa. All right, he said a certain race came from the east whom God delivered by opening 12 roads through the sea. This is true. All the inhabitants of the Indies must be of Jewish descent. The Straits of Magellan have been passed. They must have spread over more than 2,000 leagues of territory now governed by Spain. So what it's saying is that after we cross the Atlantic, we went through the Straits of Magellan and spread out. Okay, so this is just another source of proving that, you know, we came from the Eastern Hemisphere, man. All right, the next book I want to touch on is called The Annuals of the Caquicos, right? Which is another like Caike, right? Like the Tainos call their kings Caikes,
Chief.
right?
Yeah, the chief, right?
And over, you know, closer to the Yucatan, they call them the Caquicos. It's almost the same. And all throughout the Western Hemisphere, the lingua franca was Nahuatl, right? And we spoke a lot of the same words, but just with a different accent. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, I'm glad you bring that up.
Go ahead.
I'm glad you brought that up because in the book of Judges, it shows how Ephraim couldn't speak or couldn't pronounce a certain word, and because of that, they were bodied. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It shows that, you know.
Go ahead.
That's deep, bro. It shows that we got that same dialect, but we speak a little different. You know, we got the same language, but speak a little different. And it's always been like that, from the Bible to pre-Columbia to even now. Like Mexicans would say, so-called Mexicans would say a certain word, and a Puerto Rican would say a word, and it means the same thing, but it's a totally different word. You know what I'm saying? Like for example, my wife I told this story before on another video, on the Naftali video. Like, my wife told a lady from Guatemala, our neighbor, she was like, "Hey, quiere picocho?" And the lady looked at my wife like, "Yo, what the hell? Like, are you crazy?" And my wife was like, why? I didn't say nothing. I just asked if you want some cake. And the lady's like, "Nah, that's private part. Picocho's private part."
Yeah, exactly.
And my wife was like, "Oh, I'm Puerto Rican." You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but that's just it's crazy that you brought that up. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
No, that's the spirit, brother, because you know what? Before I sat down to do this with you, I was actually trying to find that scripture, bro. And you just gave it to me. It's in Judges, right?
It's in Judges.
Yeah, the accent, they got body because they didn't say it right.
Yeah. That's in Judges. Let me see. Hold on. It's Judges 12 and 6.
I just was trying to find that one, brother, and through the spirit, you just brought it out. So, all right. So the annuals of the Caquicos, the lords of Totanican. Okay, this is the book, and it's by Arana, Zahila, and Francisco Hernandez in the year 1502. Translated by Dahlia Goetz, University of Oklahoma Press, 1953. This is from page 169 through 170. All right, quote. We find a direct reference that the racial origins of the kings and nobles who led and governed the Maya in the New World. These then were the three nations of the Queches, the Quiches, right? They came from where the sun rises. So there's another reference that we came from the east. Descendants of Israel, right? So this is out of that book, the annuals of the Caicos, right? And this is a quote straight from their kings or their chiefs, right? They came from where the sun rises, descendants of Israel, of the same language and same customs. And we just touch on, some of the customs that we're still keeping today earlier in this live stream. When they arrived at the edge of the sea, Balaam Quetes touched it with his staff, and at once a path opened. And this is reminiscence of when Moses touched the Red Sea and it opened up, right? It's the same story almost. Huh? He touched it. One of their chiefs touched the water with his staff, and at once a path opened, which then closed again. For thus the great God wished it to be done, because they were the sons of Abraham and Jacob. So it was that those three nations passed through us. Okay, and there we go. Like we were talking about oral tradition earlier, right? So this is one of their kings telling one of their explorers or we have written that which by tradition our ancestors told us, who came from the other part of the sea, who came from Sevan, Tulan, bordering Babylonia. So these are first account, primary source that the Caicos or the Caquicos of Central America around the Yucatan 1502 of our origins. Okay. The next one I want to touch on, I think this is the last book I want to touch on. It's called Incidents of Travel in Central America by John L. Steffen. Quote, the author, all right? So this is talking about what the author is talking about in this book. Quote, the author quotes what Fuentes, the chronicle of the ancient kingdom of Guatemala and of the Toltec Indians. So this is what our people had to say about the Toltec. Since Fuentes said, this is what the Indians would say, according to the grandson of the last king of the Quiche Mayans, the Toltec were Israelites. I'm going to show you here in the next three scriptures how Toltec actually came from the son Tola, the son of Issachar. Okay, the Quiche Mayans, the Toltec were Israelites released by Moses from the tyranny of Pharaoh. After crossing the Red Sea, became idolaters. So Northern Kingdom, we always been steep in this idolatry, man. To escape the reproofs of Moses, they strayed away, and under the leadership of a man named Tanu, this great prince, they drifted from continent to continent until they came to a place they called the Seven Caverns. And there's also a Aztec creation story. I mean, if you go to YouTube right now and search origins of the Aztec Indian, you're going to come up with this weird creation story about the seven caves. This is what it's talking about, okay? So they came to a place they called the Seven Caverns, a part of the hidden kingdom of Mexico. Here they found the city of Tula. All right, Tula. The story recounts that from Tanu, their leaders sprang. Now, Tanu was the Israelite that came over from the Western Hemisphere, leading all these people. That the story recounts that from Tanu, the chief Tanu, their leader, sprang the ruling families of the Toltec and the Quiche Mayans. All right. Now, give me Genesis 46 and 13.
The book of Genesis, chapter 46 and verse 13. And the sons of Issachar, Tola, and Fuva.
Tola. All right. The son of Issachar is Tola. The Tolites are the original inhabitants of the Toltec Indians, man. They're right here. You see some to touch on that right here in this area, right? The Yucatan, Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras. Okay. Mm-hmm. Give me after that Numbers 26 and 23.
The book of Numbers, chapter 26 and verse 23. Of the sons of Issachar, after their families, of Tola, the family of the Tolatites.
The Tolatites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Toltec. Go ahead.
Of Pua, the family of the Punites.
Mm-hmm. All right, one more. The son of Issachar was Tola. First Chronicles 7 and 1. First Chronicles 7 and 1.
Yo, that was fire.
All praise to the Most High, Yahweh. Bashem Yahweh Shah.
Lamentations, what?
No, First Chronicles.
First Chronicles.
First Chronicles 7 and 1. This will be my last script, right? And then maybe we could go and answer some questions or whatever. First Chronicles 7 and 1. Come on, bro.
The book of First Chronicles, chapter 7 and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Now the sons of Issachar were Tola.
Tola, the Toltites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And Pua.
All right. I just wanted the Toltec. All right, Doc. That's it. That's about it, Doc. If there's any questions out there, that's about my presentation I wanted to put out there. You could stop sharing that. That was just there's a whole lot more, brother.
Yo, I appreciate that because you just taught me something. I never knew that Toltec was in the scriptures like that, and how it lines up with the Toltec peoples. That was amazing, bro. The whole lesson was amazing, honestly, man. Like, yeah, y'all brung the fire right out the gate, honestly, man. Like right out the gate, y'all went hard, like. And this is what I was anticipating. I didn't know it was gonna be like this. And this was fire, man. Y'all did your thing, bro. Y'all really did your thing. All praises to the Most High Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And yo, your reader, who's your reader?
That's my son. Yeah, Aman.
Hey, man, you're a powerful reader, bro.
Thank you.
All praises to the Most High, man. You're a powerful reader. Like you projected it clearly and strong. All praises, man. That's what's up, man. Y'all brought it. Y'all brung it. Issachar in the house. Y'all brought it, man. Y'all brought that fire. Hey, before anything, I just want to touch on one thing. So this is a book. I'm pretty sure you heard of this book before.
Mm-hmm.
The 10 Tribes of Israel. Real quick. It says this is page 150, and it says the fact of the Mexicans recording both in their paintings and songs the deluge, that's the flood about Noah and everything. That's the flood. Mm-hmm. The deluge, the building the Tower of Babel, the confusion of tongues, and the dispersion. So the Mexicans, Issachar, wrote all this history down. They painted it. They wrote. They sung it in their songs, And I think that was deep, you know, like that's a history that they brung with them.
Yeah, yeah.
To show that they are part of that Israelite history. So it's deep, bro. It's deep,
I
man.
got one more too.
Bring it out. Bring it out.
This is the mysteries of the Mexican pyramids. And this is by Peter Tompkins on page 118 in the bottom paragraph. It's going into this was done between how this was transcribed into many different languages. This was done between 1831 and 1848. Long commentaries in Greek, Hebrew, Latin, and Sanskrit, talking about what we bringing out here. Okay, mostly in support of the theory that the lost tribes of Israel were the progenitors of the Maya. Okay. All right. So also on page 119, there was Lord Kingsborough, right? Let's see if we can. Lord Kingsborough on page 119 at the top of the page. Lord Kingsborough took up the notion from Las Casas, from Bartolomé de las Casas, right? That the lost tribes of Israel had peopled Yucatan. Support for Kingsborough's version of the Maya origins of the lost tribes of Israel also came from the Mormon story, right? The Mormon story. I think there's one more excerpt I want to get out of this. This is Mysteries of the Mexican Pyramids, page 381, the bottom paragraph. As for the lost tribes of Israel, Kise confirms that a portion of them came into the southernmost portion of the United States, mixing with the refuge from Mu, then moved on to Mexico and the Yucatan. There we go. This is the area we've been touching on the whole time. The lost tribe, 10 lost tribes of Israel, they moved to Mexico and the Yucatan, but mostly to central part near what is now Mexico City. He says they came much earlier than settlers from Atlantis and Mu, right? So, yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to get on that. 10 lost tribes of Israel settled down there in Mexico and the Yucatan, right? So that's about 5 books we brought out.
Bro, that was all fire though. The whole presentation was fire, man. Yeah, that was dope, bro. That was dope.
Sorry.
So if anybody has any questions that's watching, feel free to type it in the comment section real quick, and the brothers can answer your questions.
Yeah, man. So
yeah, I think you guys did a good job, man. You guys did a good job.
All praises to the Most. Yeah, man. If any of this information, what I like to tell everybody watching this, man, you know, if you from, you know, the Northern Kingdom with so-called descendants of the Aztec Indians, the Mayan, you know, the Caique, the Tainos, the North American Indians, you know, take this information, man, because it can't just stop here. And it can't, if you receive this information, each one teach one, man, because this is not just some kind of fad or some kind of cool thing to be in, man. This is what we're talking about, world domination. All right. We're talking about us regaining the whole world, Akim, and the sons of the Most High coming back into power, which, you know, the whole world is waiting for.
And I was just anticipating. They anticipating for us for our return.
That's right.
They really waiting on us, because to be honest with you, there's more people outside of us that know who we are than we do.
I'm telling you,
and it's like they just waiting for us to wake up, man.
That's right.
That's why I keep harping on this whole fact that we have a lot of work to do. Like I told my brother Iraq, you know, we got a lot of work to do, man. We got a lot of work to do, and we need to attack it from every angle, man. And wake out people up, because we need it. So I
That's
appreciate you. I appreciate you coming on the show and giving that powerful lesson. That was a powerful lesson.
All praise to the Most High.
Yeah, I would love to see a naysayer try to knock that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was a powerful lesson. So, you know, with that, man, with that being said, if you ain't got nothing else, then we could close out.
Yeah, I'll just say it like I always do, brother. Let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Ecclesiastes 12:13. Fear Yahweh, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man.
There you go. All praise to the Most High, man. You're right. It is the whole duty, and that's part of coming back to knowing who we are, is keeping those laws, statutes, and commandments. So, we gotta do what we gotta do, man. But you know, with that being said, man, I just want to say all praise to the Most High, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Barakatah, Shalom, Yasharala. Stay up, pray for each other, love each other. Shalom, y'all.
Shalom, Yasha Allah.
All right.